You'll see this tape job quite often in volleyball players when they go up to block and their thumb gets caught with the ball. You can, a common injury is spraining the ligament right in here. So we're trying to restrict that. We're also just trying to restrict motion at the thumb joint. So obviously the thumb is fairly mobile. This can be difficult to do it, and this one takes a lot of practice. It's kind of like the arch where it's a little bit more technical, and we're going to use the half strips again, okay? Because we have to try and restrict all of this, which is not easy to do sometimes. You also see this in basketball players quite often. Just they go to catch the ball, they miss it, the ball comes off the back. It can be if somebody lands awkwardly on their thumb like this. Okay? So lots of different situations. So you have to make sure if you're taping the thumb, can they still grip something if they need to do that. A volleyball player is usually fine. Okay, they can usually go up and block, they can hit with this. If it's a setter though, that's a little bit more tricky. Can they get into that position that they need for the ball? Depending on the sport, you can include the wrist, so you can go above the wrist, or if you need wrist range of motion, then you can actually modify it and go below the wrist joint, so it's just supporting the thumb. Okay, I'm going to show you above the wrist. So same tools as before. So we're going to use a full roll and then half roll and some toughener. Okay, we'll just put a little bit.
Where can you pick up this toughener?
Just at wherever you buy the tape. So if you were buying from Diamond or Innovative in the city, they would have it. And it's good because they sell small cans, so you can get really big ones, but you don't use very much of it if you do use it. So, but you can feel, I guess, just how sticky it makes the tape and how much better it can make your tape job. Okay, so just spread your fingers out. So we'll do our top anchor. So very similar to the wrist. You can probably get away with going a little bit lower though. Okay, then we're going to need our other anchor is going to go right around the thumb joint. Okay, so the thumb has two parts to it, right here, and then we have the knuckle, and then we have here. We're going to go around this part. And you don't want to make this one too tight. This one is very easy to make. This tape job is easy to cause thumbs to turn blue. So you always want to be aware of your tension around the thumb. So you don't want to really yank on it. You want to go just really lightly around. Okay, something I like to do that isn't really part of the support for the tape job, but I feel it gives you a nicer base to work with, is I like to put a piece of tape just here, because all of my other tape is going to go over top of this. So I just like it, I don't know, covered for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm going to need some teardrops again, and there's different ways you can do this. I'll show you both. I can do half strips, which is what we did with the arch, where we will go around once and then here and then the opposite way, or I can do an extra long strip and just have them cross over. Okay, it's really up to you, whatever you prefer. And I find it's easier to rip your strips rather than try and do this with the tape in your hand. I think I might have done this too short. So I'm going to do the half strips first, just tip here off and down. So I'm going to come around where my anchor was. Okay, and you want to look for, it's called your MCP joint. So if you feel on yourself, not your knuckle, but we're looking for the joint right here. It's should be a big bump. Okay, so on you, that. Okay, that's what we want. Where we want our X to be, and we want to overlap it like we did with the arch. So for the first one, I'm going to aim to go right over top of that bump. I don't want it off to the side. I want it right over top. Okay, and when I come across with my other hand, I want to pull down. Okay, then I'm going to have my strip just angle off, and I can just let let it wrap around the wrist at the anchor. Okay. I'm just gonna come, this is just really awkward how this thing is. Just make sure you can still see me. I'm gonna cut another piece, and now I'm gonna do the opposite. So this way. Okay, so I'm gonna come around. I wanna make my X right over top of that bump, or that joint. Push down as I pull across. Okay, so even that, it's getting a little off to the side, but it's close to the middle, so I'll keep going. Now I'm gonna show you with the double strip. So I'm gonna just make it really long, because I can always trim it down after. Okay, I'm gonna put the tape back here. I'm gonna fold it over one way, push down and across, and now I have the other one ready to go. I'm gonna push down and go across. Okay, so if I've gone over top, I've gone below with my X, now I wanna try and get it just a little bit higher. I prefer doing the strips separately, but it's really just personal preference. I feel like I can get a better angle sometimes. Okay, so hold your thumb fairly stiff. Okay, and now I'm gonna push down. And I'm just doing 3 strips. You can do more if you have a bigger thumb or if you want more support. And you want to make sure you start to get it a little bit wider. Okay, so maybe I'm going to try 4, and I want to come out to the side a little bit more. It'll just give a little bit more support. The thing with doing the half strips, or I guess the flaw in this technique, is that you get a lot of tape around the thumb. And again, if you have to wear a glove, this can be a problem. Okay. Now, one thing that's not in the slides that's just kind of a little technique that can be extra, and it can work really well. This is really good at restricting this. We want to restrict this, like pulling back, and this doesn't always do that very well. So if I just put the person in this position, if I go in the webbing, like this, and I take these 2 strips and I pull back really hard, so keep your thumb nice and stiff, pull back hard, stick them down. Okay, now how does that? It's a little bit stiffer now, hey? Just from that one little strip.
Yeah.
So you make just kind of like, I don't even know what to call it. You surround the joint like this, okay? And you kind of set the thumb joint back or you set the bone back in the joint a little bit, and you can put 2 there if you want. And this is just something that's extra, so it won't be in those slides. So you can do another one. Okay. So then I've got a whole lot of ends here, so I really need to make sure I cover this up. If you have any ends up here, then you want to put a little ring at the top. Mine aren't coming off though, so I'm going to leave it off. So just make a fist. So 1, 2, 3 seconds. Doesn't feel cold.
Oh.
Feels nice and warm, which is good. Okay, so now you can get them to go, it's really essential with this one, get them to go try their sport. So do they need a glove on? Are they shooting something? You know, get them, if it's volleyball, get them to do some blocks and have that thumb hit with the ball and see how it does. And you might need more tape over top. Do you feel it's restricted a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing you could try, and you guys don't need to do this, I'm just going to demo it for you. If you had, oh, I just need some other types of tape. Okay, let's try it with elastic. So if your athlete wanted some more support, you could get some elastic tape, you could get some 2-inch zinc oxide, you could use just a normal roll of zinc oxide. And you can cover the whole thing by doing kind of like a figure 8, but if you pull it nice and tight, it can give them some extra support. Okay, and then it just holds it together because we have so many little ends. Okay, you could do something like that if you wanted, but that's not required. The main thing here is the 2 anchors and then the teardrop strips. Okay, so we'll try this out. Do you guys have any questions? All right, so just a couple of key things. So we did 4 different tape jobs, but talked about lots of variations. So the main things are, obviously practice is going to make perfect. So you know what the challenging parts are of each one of these. And if you don't do them right, you won't have the level of success with that tape job won't be as high. So the more practice you have and the more you work with athletes, the better you're obviously going to get, just like with anything you do really. And if you don't do these tape jobs for 5 years, you probably won't remember how to do it. So it's all about practice, and that's how you'll get better. Always remember, don't make the injury worse. If they say it's uncomfortable, don't say, no, I learned this tape job, it'll help everything. Hey, it might not, or maybe it's not the right thing for that injury, so take it off if it's making it worse. Okay? And always work within your comfort level. Don't try and step outside of your comfort zone with this. So like you learned how to do this and you're here for 4 hours, that doesn't make you an expert. So if they say it's uncomfortable, take it off. Okay, don't be offended by it. Just you need more practice, or maybe it's not the right thing for that injury. Always ask lots of questions. Like don't just, when an athlete comes up to you and says, yeah, hey, can you just take my ankle? Ask them why. Why are we doing this? Why are we bothering? Why are we spending the money? Okay, using this tape. Do you really need this? Do you even have an injury? Okay, how did it happen is a big one. Like with the volleyball one, with the thumb, they might say, yeah, I went up to block and my thumb got pulled back. So that's pretty clear indication that, yeah, we can do that. You try that thumb tape job. Athlete comfort is always the biggest thing. Okay, they have to be comfortable when they're playing their sport, otherwise they're not going to be able to perform no matter what you've done to them and how amazing that tape job is. So if they want some kind of modification and you know that that's not really going to make it better, but for them it is, then just try it out and see what it does. And also, if they just want, that one piece of tape, just give it to them, okay? Because half of this is psychological, okay? You can only do so much with some pieces of tape stuck to the skin. And then always think about what are the demands of the sport. Are you going to be impeding their functional capacity by the tape job you've done? Okay, so we talked about limiting the amount in the palm, if they have to grab something, the type of footwear they're wearing. So always think about that and try things out in practice ahead of time rather than right before the game, because chances are you might not get it quite right and you'll just have to take it off and try again next time.